There we go. All right, let's talk about absolute value with some stuff that you already know how to do. But then what we're going to do is we're going to do some solving with absolute value. And do we do... No, we don't. I think it was my other class. We're doing graphing with absolute value, but we're not doing that right now. Let's see where I want to start. Okay. Let's start with let's just talk about what you know already about absolute value. All right. So somebody tell me what they know. If I said, what's the absolute value of 3? What's that?
3.
It's 3. What's the absolute value of negative 7? 7. That's right. So you don't just change the sign. People used to say, well, not used to, but it seems like every time I teach it, for some reason, they think you just take the opposite. But you don't necessarily take the opposite, because what's the absolute value of 7? It's positive 7. What's the absolute value of negative 7? It's also positive 7. Absolute value means it's always going to be positive. So what it's telling you is how far away from 0 is that number. That's what the absolute value symbol is basically saying. It's not like the formal definition, but that's basically what you need to know about the absolute value. How far away is it from 0? How many places, right? It's 7 places away. Agreed? Like if I measure something, measure the distance of something, I don't measure it and say, oh, this looks like negative 7 meters. You wouldn't say that, would you? You would just measure and say, it's what? It's 7 meters. No matter which direction that you're measuring it. You could be measuring it from here to here or from here to here. Okay, it doesn't matter. What's the measurement? It's just 7 meters. I just used meters, okay? It's not always going to be meters, obviously, but that's what you do. So that's basically what the absolute value is telling you. So here is a formal definition that they give you for absolute value. You'd think it'd be a whole bunch of words, but it's not. So it's like this. Okay, here it is. The absolute value of x is equal to 2 different things, and they give you 2 scenarios. One if x is positive, and one if x is negative. All right, so the absolute value of x is equal to x if x is greater than or equal to 0. So let's see if that makes sense. So if I said the absolute value of 3, okay, it's positive. Is x greater, this x right here, is that greater than or equal to 0? Yeah, so what's the absolute value of x? It's just x, which in this case, it's what? 3. So the absolute value of 3 is 3 because x was greater than or equal to 0. What's the absolute value of 0? 0, because, again, the absolute value of 0, right, is equal to what? 0 if x is greater than or equal to 0, all right? Now watch this. This looks like it doesn't make sense, but it will, hopefully, if x is less than 0. Now what's that? I thought absolute value should always be positive. But what does this say? If x is less than 0, so give me a number that's less than 0. Negative 5, okay? Would you agree? Okay, so the absolute value, what's my x? It's negative 5. So this says the absolute value of that x is equal to what? Negative x, or the opposite of x, if x is less than 0. Is this x right here less than 0? Yeah, so what's it going to equal? It's going to equal negative whatever that x is. Do you see how that definition works? Okay, so what's negative negative? It's positive. So what's the absolute value of negative 5? It's positive 5. And this is the definition. Okay, it's a weird looking definition, but it's a math definition, all right? And that's the definition for absolute value. It's basically saying what we just did before, but it's kind of formal this time. So let's do an example. Are you ready? We're going to solve for x. We're going to do some algebra. Solve for x, but it's going to be an absolute value. So it says solve. Is that plus? Yes. X plus 5 is equal to 9. All right? Now, remember what we said up here in the definition? We got 2 scenarios, right? It's equal to x and it's equal to negative x. That's what we're going to do right here. So we're actually going to write 2 different equations. We're going to write x plus 5 is equal to 9. Because remember, the absolute value of x is equal to x, right? You got two scenarios. And then absolute value of x could equal what? Negative x, right? So I don't know if this x is positive or negative. So I'm just going to say, well, I'm going to do 1 positive, and then you've got that or, and then you could say x is what? X plus 5 is equal to, what did that definition say to do? Absolute value of x is equal to positive x, and absolute value of x is equal to what? Negative x. So what am I going to do right here? Yeah, I'm going to go negative 9. Okay? Everybody with me? And I'll show you how it works out. We'll get an answer. Yeah. Yeah, I knew you were going to ask that. And I was like, when I saw that, I thought, I bet you somebody's going to ask that. I don't know how to answer that. Well, because they're equal to each other. Okay. There you go. I just figured it out. Yep, because this whole thing is equal to 9. So it's equal to the positive 9 and the negative 9 because this is equal to that. They're the same thing. That's why we did it here. Does that make sense? Okay. So we could have put the negative like out in front of this and kept that positive 9, but it's a lot easier doing it this way. So I'm glad you made me think about it. All right. So here we go. Let's solve for this. Minus 5 minus 5. X equals 4. Let's do this. Minus 5 minus 5. X equals negative 14. You're like, how in the world can I get two different answers? Well, let's see if they both work. Okay? Let's put them both in to the equation and do a little check. All right, put a 4 in here. That's easy. 4 plus 5 is 9. Absolute value of 9 is 9. So does that work? Yeah, that works. Let's put a negative 14 in for this. Negative 14 plus 5 is negative 9. But what's the absolute value of negative 9? It's positive 9. So this works as well, doesn't it? So you actually get two solutions for that equation. We're not used to getting that kind of stuff, all right? But we do on the absolute value. Everybody okay? Let's do another one. So that's what we do. So the first thing we do, we set two equations. First one, we just keep it whatever it is over here. The second one, we make that side negative because of that definition, all right? Let's do another one. It says to solve, we got a 2 and an absolute value of 3x minus 12 minus 8 equals 24. Now, first thing we're going to do, we're not going to do that. We're not going to split it up into equations just yet. What I want on the left-hand side, I just want the absolute value of something. Nothing in front of it, nothing behind it. I just want to be left with an absolute value, okay? But do I have that situation here? This is example 3 in the book, okay? Do I have the absolute value just sitting there by itself? No, I got that 8 and I got that 2 I got to get rid of. Kind of pretend at first anyway that these are just parentheses, all right, the absolute value symbol. So what do I get rid of first? The 2? No. No. The 8, right, you get rid of the 8. Look, if I had 3x plus 2 equals 5, you wouldn't get rid of that 3 first, would you? You'd get rid of the 2, right? Yeah, but it's the same thing, all right? Even if I had that in parentheses, I'd still get rid of that 2, all right? That's what we do right here. So we add an 8 to both sides. All right, bring everything down. And what's that? 32? Now what do I do? Just like we would have done over here. Now I could divide by 2, right? So divide by 2, divide by 2. So I get the absolute value of 3x minus 12 is equal to 16. Now, what did I say earlier? Before I actually deal with the absolute value, I want to get rid of everything that's with the absolute value, okay? I got rid of the 8, got rid of the 2. Now I'm ready to go. So now it's the same problem, basically the same problem as I did earlier. So let's do that. What do I do? 3x minus 12 equals what? 16. So that stays exactly the same. Now what do I do over here? 3x minus 12 equals negative 16. That's the only thing I do. Okay? Nate, you paying attention? You were nice and awake and talking and everything while I was telling stories, but while I'm teaching, then you're sleeping. I don't get it. How are you going to learn that way? Let's do the math. Plus 12 plus 12. 3x equals, what's that, 28? Yep. And then divide by 3. This doesn't come out pretty, but that's okay. The higher up in math, the less pretty your answers are going to be, okay? It doesn't, nothing goes into it or anything, so I just keep it 28 over 3. Let's do this. Plus 12 plus 12. I get 3x equals negative 4. Divide by 3, x is negative 4/3. Again, it's not pretty, but we'll just keep it like that. Now, in the book, they check it. They put it back in. We don't have enough time for that. It's kind of a pain in the butt, especially when they're fractions like that. But those are your answers. So you're going to circle them both. You're going to circle them both. Either this one can work or this one can work. Yep. You did? Am I done? How about we do one more example? Yeah, we only got like 5 minutes. Is that right? All right, so here we go. Solve. Watch this. 2x plus 5. Now this one, let's think about this. What do we say the absolute value of something always is? The absolute value of 3 is always positive. The absolute value of negative 3 is always positive. Look at this. The absolute value of this, what can I put in for x to make the absolute value of this to become a negative 4? There's nothing I can. There's nothing I can put in there because eventually I'm always going to take the absolute value of it. And the absolute value always has to come out to be a what? It's got to be a positive. So is there any number that I can put in for this? No. So what answer am I going to put? No solution. Okay.
Does that break the rule then?
Now, the rule says that everything, the absolute, right, yeah, right. What this says is the absolute value of this is always going to come out to a positive number, okay? Remember when we had that negative x? That said that if x was less than 0. So if this, it's hard to explain. Wish I could explain it a little easier. They're not here. They can't be here. I mean, they've been called 3 times. All right, good luck, soccer guys. Make sure you do your homework, okay? Just because you're leaving early. You still got homework.
No, Diego's kind of nice. He didn't do this now, bro. I never got a problem. Yeah. Although he almost did get them last year.
Okay, here we go. So what do we do? Actually, over here, we probably should have shown the work and put it back in because sometimes you do everything right, you circle both of them, but one of them might not work. All right? So I probably should have done the work, put it back into this to see if it works, okay, like we did the first one. With that said, why do you think I said all that? Because on this one of them doesn't work, okay, even though you do the math correctly. All right? So what do we have here? I got 2x plus 9 equals 3 minus 8x. So the first one, I don't change anything. I just get rid of the absolute value. This one, I got 2x plus 9 equals what? What do I do to that right side? I got to take the negative of it, right? So, because, yeah. And then on this one, let's just do it real quick. Plus 8x, that's 10x, equals, subtract 9, that's negative 6. Divide by 10, that's what? Negative 3/5. Yeah? All right, let's do this. 2x plus 9, distribute. Negative 3 plus 8x. Subtract 8x from both sides, we get negative 6x. Subtract a 9, we get what? Negative 12. Divide by negative 6, we get what? 2. Let's do this. Since we don't have much time, let's put the 2 in. All right, that'd be a lot easier to do in our head, wouldn't it? Let's put the 2 in. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 plus 9 is 13. Let's put the 2 in for this. 8 times 2 is 16. 3 minus 16 is what? Negative 13. Do they equal each other? Right? The absolute value. Well, the absolute value of 13 is not equal to negative 13, is it? Okay, so when I check, that doesn't work. So is 2 a solution for this? It doesn't work. So is 2 a solution for it? No. Okay, if it doesn't work, if I put that in for this and it doesn't work, the left side is not equal to the right side, then 2 is not a solution. So that's not going to be one of my answers. Now, we're out of time, but you could put that negative 3/5 in for x, for here, and for here, and you would find that it does work. Okay? So x equals negative 3/5 is our only answer. Don't include the 2 because you need to put it back in. If I had more time, we'd put the negative 3/5 in, okay, and see if it works. But we just don't have time to do it right now. All right? I think there's a couple other things on here. Do as many as you can. There's a couple on there with graphs that, wait, just listen to me talk, okay? So there's a couple on there with graphs that you may not be able to do, but I bet you anything, if you just look at the examples, you should be able to figure it out, okay? So your work is 3 to 22. So it's that section, it's section 1-8, numbers 3 to 22. It's pages 41 and 42. Pages 41 and 42. All right, there it is.